ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's Untethered Live Politi-tics on a Saturday night. I'm your host, Jake Johnson, and joining me in the background in the shadows, hiding behind the curtains, is Miss Banhammer. You're going to have to say hello, Osmosis. Microphone issues. She's here. She's just hiding behind the microphone. Oh, it's a lovely day. We're all sick at the house here today, but that's all right. We wouldn't miss this for the world. We're going to talk about aliens and Trump hate, fever pitch, and also national lockdown hoax, which happened last night live on this show. Pretty interesting stuff. So come on in, take your shoes off, grab your coffee. If you don't have a cup, you can get one in the description below. I recommend the first one. It has my face on it. It is fantastic. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, support, join in Super Chat. If you want to show a little bit of love, if you want to, you can do that at $ jakejohnsonband on CashApp or paypal.me/jakejohnsonband, which is preferable. They don't ask too many questions. Neither one of them do, actually. And also, go over to facebook.com/UntetheredLive chilling. The link is in the chat somewhere. It's a great place to hang out and share pictures, text, videos, memes, and get to know each other. So don't miss that. It's fantastic. All right, who's first in chat? My man, Kevin Bernard. What's up, brother? Kevin says, hello, Jake, Amanda, and everyone. What's happening? Nice to see you. Thank you for joining me on a Saturday night. Debbie's right behind you. She says, hamburger helper hand. Hi, Debbie. Are you? How art thou? Mr. Pickle says hello. Kevin says, hello, Debbie. And Debbie says, hello, Kevin. And Bill Bennett's here. He says, I sent gold coins for 10 jewels. Well, thank you. If I get enough of those, I might be able to get a sandwich. I do appreciate it. I don't know what that means. I've tried to figure it out. It does not compute. I don't know what that means. I've never even seen the jewels. I don't have a collection of jewels. But they get sent to me often. But thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Kevin says, Saturday, night of trolls. Maybe. I'm kind of trolling myself on Saturday night. I think people don't understand that so much. They seem to think that I just want to argue with everybody. But arguing is important. It's important what we're doing here. It is kind of a trolly night, though. Amanda says, here's your gold star, Kevin. Thank you. Patty says, hello, children. Hi, Patty. Amanda says, Kevin, Debbie, and all, and Bill. I can read. I'm not having a stroke. Hamburger helper hand. Kevin says, hello, Bill, and hello, Patty. And Bill says, hello, guys and gals. The implication. And Amanda says, everybody hamburger helper hand. You get a hamburger helper hand, and you get a hamburger helper hand. Patty says, hi, Mr. Bill. Hi, Kevin. And Amanda says, Patty, hamburger helper hand. Bill says, it said I made enough to give a gift is all I know. So I gave. Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate you, buddy. I've never seen that happen. I don't know what it means, but I appreciate the effort. It means a lot. Patty says, oh, hi, Miss Amanda. Oh, hi, Mark. What's that guy's name? I can't think of his name. It's killing me. There's a movie called The Room. Tommy Wiseau is his name in real life, but I can't think of the character's name. Anyway, it's the worst movie ever made. One of them. And by the way, I have fair to middling internet connection, so if I get splotchy or if your wheel is turning, that's why. I apologize. It's the weather. There's nothing I can do about it. Sometimes it's excellent. Sometimes it's and sometimes it just kicks me out. I can't really help it. But I appreciate y'all showing up. How many of you are here? 38 people have been here already. Wow, that's bad. There's only 3 people in chat. That can't be right. How many people are in chat? Oh, I see. I got the wrong screen. 12 people in chat. Okay. It's better. Amber says, good evening, friends. Cherries and hearts. That's a new one. Cherries. You get cherries. Hey, Amber. Amanda says, blah. Aaron, what's up, my brother? He says, building while listening. Excellent. That's the best way to do it. Whistle while you work and listen while you build. Kind of hard to whistle and listen at the same time, but give it a shot. Don't fall. Amber says, hamburger upper hands. Kevin says, hello, Aaron. And Aaron says, smiley face. That was an honorable smiley face. Amanda says, Amber, Aaron, hamburger upper hand. Amber says, diamonds and black hearts, big dog and green team. Aaron says, or I can deal with my whistle while listening. You could. You could. But it would be unfair to the whistle. Give one of us your time fully. Amber says, Miss Hammer, how was your day? Sleepy. As I said before, you're going to have to say hello through the ether because we have microphone issues and we can't get another one just yet. So we have to wait till we can get it handled out. She's here, though. Aaron says, what's up, Amber? It's a good cup of coffee. Thank you. And we've got the hantavirus or something over here at the house. I don't know what it is. We're both sick today. I think we both got up about 5 minutes before the show started, which is not good, but we're here. We made it. That's what's important. Debbie says, Aaron must do yoga if he can blow his own whistle. I have the chat over your face, Jake. It's weird. Well, I have been treated badly before. It'll be okay. As long as you're here and your view counts, I'm happy. Aaron says, so what's going on in the world of politics? I don't watch the news, so what's new? Well, aliens are real, apparently. Our government dumped a cache of pictures and videos onto the public this week, the beginning of the week. And apparently, it's all real. There's things in the skies that they can't accommodate for. Keep in mind the word UFO just means, by its very nature, that you don't know what it is. To somebody, it's just an FO. It may be an aerial phenomena, which they changed the name of it for that very reason. Aerial phenomena, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. The reason they don't call it UFO anymore is because it's too encompassing. They want to make sure you understand we don't know what it is, but somebody does. So that's the reason for that. So all the talk on the internet is just the people on the internet talking. What the government has said is, we don't know what the hell it is. That's it. That's all they've said. All of the talk about them being from other planets or other dimensions or the future, that's all internet stuff. Nobody really, there's been a couple of people, I think Rep Luna said something about it. A couple of people in the government have said that they're angels, and I tend to agree with that, but what do I know? I'm just a podcaster. There's that. And then last night, apparently, a bunch of news channels ran with the idea that Trump locked the nation down because of hantavirus, which isn't true. Something was said, but it got taken out of context and everybody ran with it. And then it turns out it ain't true. So there's that. There's a bunch of panic going on right now over that very thing. And that just is further proof that everybody on that side hates President Trump so much so that they will take anything and run with it. Fever pitch hate. The kind of hate that there's time It's time we do something about it. Kind of hate. So that's what's new in the world. What about you? Amber says, Debbie, cherries. And I liked and Facebook shared. Thank you, Amber. Aaron says, do you guys remember the band Tool? Yes. Back in the day, where the guy had his rib removed and the rumor was he did it so that he could self-fillet. The whole thing was a rumor. You can't have your ribs removed. Most doctors won't do that on purpose. That's about as valid as Richard Gere shoving a gerbil up his ass. Every one of us has heard that story. It's not true. I don't know if it was the guy from Tool or not. I don't remember that. But I know that Marilyn Manson claimed to have done that, which is not from Tool. That's from the Spooky Kids. I think, honestly, Aaron says, this is to turn our head away from the fake moon landing. This is to turn our head away from the fake moon landing, and they have to make up something else to get our attention. You're not wrong entirely. Actually, the fake moon landing is quite useful to the government because they use it to sow subterfuge and to keep people guessing when they have secret things that they want to do. And they've been using the alien thing for that very reason also. You can go back in history and look. Every single time the news, the place where we get the truth from, talks about aliens, at that exact same time the government would be doing some secret spy plane stuff or some secret mission in another country, or somebody in the White House is getting in trouble for doing something, untoward. That's when aliens come out. Most recently, it came out when Hunter Biden was found to have cocaine in the White House. Aliens were all over the news. So they use these things for that reason. So they're not real interested in you not believing in the moon landing. They're all right with you doubting that. I'm not drunk at all, but thank you, Tom. And you can watch your mouth if you want to be new here. If you want to be new here for longer than 15 minutes, try hello. That works better. And I'm sick today, and I'm not in the mood to put up with your bullshit. So you're just going to get kicked out quickly tonight. So don't do that. You can have a conversation and you can disagree without being rude. It's up to you to learn how. Amber says, be right back. Maybe my screen will be better. I don't know, Amber. I'm having bad internet connection tonight. So I don't know if your screen will solve its problem or not. Because it might be coming from me. It might be coming from inside the house. How drunk am I? I wish I was drunk. I'm drinking coffee. Can't drink coffee and be drunk. I mean, you can if it's Irish coffee, but let's not go there. Amanda says, some women do that to look smaller, to remove a rib. I don't know that a doctor will remove, now they will, but back then, I don't think they would do that on purpose. I know that they will tie their ribs together with a corset. I'm not sure you can remove a rib. I don't think that's an elective. I might be wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think that's an elective surgery. Those things are important. They kind of help you keep your guts in, protect your lungs. If you don't have all of your ribs, your lungs are showing. Now, if I'm wrong, correct me, obviously, but I don't think I am. Let's see if we can find, see if you can find an example of a rib actually being removed that can be proven. And show me. Give me a link. I will gladly take that back because I'm not sure. It sounds like the kind of thing people will do. I mean, they're removing their breasts and their penises. I don't know why they wouldn't remove ribs too, splitting their tongues. But that's all in the last 10 years that people are doing things like that a lot. Back when Tool was on the scene, I don't think that was a regular practice. Also, if you're looking for that, make sure it's not in the last 10 years, because that all bets are off the table once they started removing body parts. Amber says size. No. Well, again, I can't help it. I have a bad internet connection tonight, and I can't seem to make it get better. I'm trying. Debbie says, Tom, don't be stupid or you're gone. Yeah, Tom, this drunk guy has friends. They don't like to be pissed off. Bill Bennett says, the earth is round. We went to the moon, I think. Well, you see, that's the problem there, Bill. Thinking ain't cutting it. In an intellectual world, it pays to know. And these are not things that we can know, which is why the conversation is still looming. And because, and I understand the irony in this, but if the government didn't spend so much time lying to us, when they told us something that was true, we might believe it. But they spend all of their time tricking us and lying to us and trying to convince us of things, so much so that it's obvious to a 3-year-old that when they do say something like, no, honestly, we went to the moon, you can't help but kind of go, yeah, right. I see what you're doing here. You're doing something, right? I can feel it. That's the problem with lying. The Bible tells you very clearly, in case you didn't know, 4,000 years ago, they wrote a book, or parts of the book 4,000 years ago, and it said very clearly, don't lie to people. It's not good for your complexion. I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. The problem with the earth being round, if we're going to go there, let's go there. I got my tinfoil hat right here, but I'm wearing headphones, so I can't really wear the tinfoil hat. The problem is the math works both ways. It's like asking the question, does the earth go around the sun, or does the sun go around the earth? If you're talking about relative to the earth, that's an obvious answer. If you're talking about relative to space, it's not so obvious, because space is infinite, which means there is no up or down or left or right and no frame of reference, which means the earth and the sun are rotating around each other because there is no other way to see it. You can't pick a point of reference in an infinite space. There is no left or right, so there is no center. And if there's no center, you can't very well say one is the other. So, yes, the earth rotates around the sun, but the sun also rotates around the earth because we are moving. Go ahead and look. Go look at any document made by NASA or science, anything, any video. They will tell you that the earth is rotating around the sun and the sun is rotating through the universe and the universe is rotating through something else. Everything is moving. Therefore, there is no center. And if there is no center, you can't say one is the other. Well, the earth may very well be round, but if it's round and it's 25,000 miles around at the equator, which is what science purports, 24.9, something like that, it's pretty close to 25,000 miles, then the math should be easy. It's easy. If you're on a ball, then the curvature should be 8 miles per meter squared in both directions. If you're standing at the equator and you look out across the ocean, it should drop off 8 miles per meter squared. That's the math. The problem is that's also the math for a straight line. Now, when we look out across the ocean, are we looking at the horizon or are we looking at the curvature horizon? Which is it? It's called the horizon. Well, what does that word come from? Horizontal, which means what? A straight line. So the earth is flat as far as you're concerned because you can't see where it curves. Now, when there have been studies done the Earth decidedly does not drop off 8 meters per mile squared. Therefore, it is not either 25,000 miles around or round. Something is wrong. If you go up in a balloon on a ball, if you were standing on a ball, if you could picture that, and you go up on a balloon, your eye would have to fall down to look at the horizon as you went up because you're going away from a spherical object. It doesn't happen. No matter how high you go, the horizon remains at eye level no matter how high you are. That's not how balls work. So, the math works both ways, which is why it's still a conspiracy, because it's good. It's good. And people, when they look into it, they can't help but fall one way or the other on that line. And they look harder and they use real science and they get both answers. Some people believe one way, some people believe the other. It comes down to believing something. That's what it is. That's why it's still a thing. And that's why you correctly said, I think, because you can't know unless you go see for yourself. I wish I knew, but I don't. I've never been outside this earth. Now, here's the other problem with that. Well, you can see the curvature of the earth from an airplane. No, you cannot. Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't. Because if this is the earth, if my arm is the earth, right? The space station is 422 miles above the surface of the earth. It's about where my hair ends on my arm. It's about right here. Now, picture yourself sitting on my finger, on the bottom of my finger where it is right now, and tell me you could see the curvature of the earth looking down at it. You know how tiny you would have to be to sit on the tip of my finger? Now, if you were looking down at that, you could not see where it curves because you can only see about 3 miles in every direction if you're looking straight ahead, depending on how tall you are. You might could see a little bit further or not so much, but just by a little, about 3 miles. Anything beyond that is out of your sight. So there is no way to see it unless you're standing on the moon looking at it, and even then, you can only see about 30% of it. Why? Because it's a ball. And if you're looking at a ball in a black void, you can only see the surface that's facing you. You can't see around the edges. So all you'd see is a disc, no matter where you are. That's just the nature of vision. Diminishing returns don't count in space. And so that's why I entertained talking about it. I don't necessarily believe the earth is flat, but I do believe it's flat as far as you're concerned. For you, it's flat. Don't believe me? Get a ruler out, a straight edge, and put it on the ground. Where you're standing is flat. I personally believe the earth is an oblate spheroid, like a piece of gravel, and the gas that surrounds it is round. I think the earth has flat spots and jagged spots and different places, different levels of existence. But the gas, the oxygen and the nitrogen and all that surrounds it is roundish. That's what my personal belief is, but I don't know that either. It is a belief. Amanda says, some women do that to look smaller to remove a rib. I read that one. Yeah. If you can find that, I'd like to see that. Amber says, size no. I read that too. Where am I at? Okay. Okay, I see where we're at. Okay. I'll find it. Then my chat jumped as soon as I found where I was at. Here we go. Aaron says, damn, that's crazy. Women remove ribs to look smaller instead of just doing sit-ups. Wouldn't that be something? All right, Tom. This is the only time I'm going to warn you of this. Do not disrespect the ladies. And for that, I'm personally timing you out. And when you come back, if you come back, you better damn well have a better disposition to the ladies, or I will not allow you to be back in this chat. This is not your right. This is not your living room. It's mine, and you better act like it. These are my friends. Show a little respect. You can say what you want to say to me. Somebody may or may not stop you, but you can't talk like that to the ladies. And Amanda says, yes, Aaron, to pull in their waists. And Maureen says hi, and I made it. Hey, Maureen, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Amanda says, Maureen, hamburger upper hand. Maureen says, hi, Amanda, Jake and company. Hi. Already gone, too late, says Amanda. Well, that sucks to be you there, Tom. You missed a good opportunity to meet some real good friends. Just imagine how much more things being a troll will make you miss in your life. Maybe you should rethink. Aaron says, Amanda, that's so sad. Maureen says, please like and share. Yes, please do. And feed Jake if you can. It's a rough week this week. I'll take it. I'll be glad to. I'm not too ashamed. Amber says, Maureen, stars and cherries, which don't go together at all. They don't even rhyme, but delicious. Maureen says, hi, Amber. And thank you, Maureen. I appreciate that. Amanda says, Amber, it's because of when you can end the show. If you come in before we go live, it will be a normal chat. I think she's talking about the words over my face. What she's saying is depending on when you come in, the chat looks different. So if you come in after, it might be a different chat. But if you come in before, it'll be normal, I think. Maureen says, removing things depends on how much money you have. Well, apparently. Aaron says, facts. I don't know that removing a rib violates the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. Because it definitely would do harm to not have the amount of ribs you're supposed to have. And something tells me doctors have gone crazy. Aaron says, or whether or not they put them back like hearts and kidneys, if you're poor and they tell you you need a transplant, you pretty much die. Correct. If you're poor, you die. If you're rich, they'll kill a Asian kid and give you his heart. If you're rich enough. Maureen says, Aaron, true. That last part was not true. I don't think. It might be. I did see a movie that suggested that once. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was made by the same people that made the movie Hostel, and about the same time. And they were in South America swimming in a hole, and then they woke up with no kidneys. It's one of those movies. Debbie says, yes, rib removal surgery, also known as costectomy, because it costs a lot of money. And they remove your dollars from your purse, and then they remove whatever you ask them to remove. Can be performed for elective cosmetic reasons, such as achieving a slimmer waistline. Well, I stand corrected. Look at that. Jake's wrong about something. This is the thing you need to know. When I'm wrong, it's bad for the world. You don't want me to be wrong because I'm looking at the world as a positive thing. The fact that I'm wrong about that suggests that there are people out there that will take your bones out because you want them to. Bones that protect your lungs and your innards. I don't like being wrong, but I am. Apparently they'll do that. I'm sorry. It's a shame. Maureen says, Tom, pretend you grew up in a time where you were taught basic manners. If not, we can teach you now if you need. He got taught. What we really need to do is take people like that and turn them over our knee. That needs to come back. I remember that being a clear and present danger to my safety when I was a child. If I spoke out of turn, I'd get turned over somebody's knee, and I did not want that to happen. Debbie says, I went to DuckDuckGo and asked. That was the answer. Thank you. I appreciate you looking into that. Amber says, yay, Amazon is here. Nice. Amanda says, yes, some doctors perform rib removals, or more commonly, rib remodeling or sculpturing for cosmetic reasons, primarily to create a narrower waistline or exaggerated hourglass figure. Those women are not healthy. And if you come across, fellas, a girl that has a body shaped like somebody tied a rope around her and took off in a truck real fast, stay away from that woman. She's crazy. Like, for real. That's not a real person. That is a person that will definitely do weird things to you to get money. Not because you want them to. Amanda continues, traditional rib removal. Surgeons remove portions of the lower floating ribs, typically ribs 11 and 12, sometimes part of rib 10. This is done through incisions in the back, which you would have to separate it from the spine and from the sternum because the rib is connected in two spots. And that would be painful. I've had a broken rib before, and I can promise you that's not fun. Effectively, they'd have to break it off or saw it off. It would not be pleasant. Here's the interesting part, though. The lower rib will grow back if it is damaged or removed. It's the only bone that will. Amanda says, often combined with liposuction and muscle reduction for better contouring. It aims to reduce the skeletal bottleneck, limiting waist size. Modern alternatives. Medical rib removal resection has a much longer history. Surgeons have removed parts of ribs, often the first rib or cervical ribs, for therapeutic reasons like treating thoracic outlet syndrome. Thoracic outlet syndrome. Is that where you can't poop? I'm not sure. This is your thorax area. So, thoracic outlet removal or syndrome. Does that mean you get so fat that your ribs puff out? I don't know. Or sunk in? I don't know. Maureen says, Amber, who is Amazon, or did you just get a delivery? That's who Amazon is. Amanda says, the original series. Since the late 19th and early 20th century, examples include resections reported as early as the 1860s and the 1910s for conditions involving vascular or nerve compression, rib cartilage, and bone. Well, that's wild. I do stand corrected. Harvesting for reconstructive grafts, e.g. in rhinoplasty or skull repair, also has been common in plastic surgery for decades. Bottom line, yes, qualified doctors do this for aesthetic looks purposes in certain countries, clinics, but safer non-surgical options, diet and exercise, wearing a corset, or liposuction are usually recommended first. Consult a board-certified plastic surgeon and weigh the risks carefully. It's not a casual procedure. Don't have your ribs removed. That's retarded. And yes, I'm saying it. I'm sorry that I said that they didn't do that. And apparently they do. But don't have that done. Keep what you were born with. Make it work for you. Maureen says, thank you, Lord. My missing cat, Patches, came home. Yes. She's been missing for about a week and no idea where she went. Adventuring, but that's where she went. She probably went out to sow her royal oats. Cats do that. I'm glad you came back, though. Must have been a wild weekend. And Bill says planets are round. How do you know? How does Earth and the moon and the sun all fit perfectly to make an eclipse? Well, because God created them that way. But since you're making a statement of fact, planets are round, how do you know? Have you ever seen one? I don't think you have. So the answer to that question is they look round from here. They look like a spherical shape, but you can't make out the spherical nature of them even with a telescope. They just look like a disc. No matter where you look, the only way you can tell that they're round is the Mercator line, which is the line that separates the light from the darkness, and it is bowed around the edge of it like it would be. However, you can do that with a plate. You don't need it to be a ball for that to happen. If you don't believe me, get a plate and another plate and a source of light, and then set one plate up on a stand in front of the light, and then move the other plate in front of it, and you will notice it has a round shadow on the other plate. So that is not a definitive answer as to whether it's round or not. It just looks that way. Unfortunately, they're very far away from us, and we cannot tell. Even the moon. Even the moon. That being said, we have been to the moon, and there are pictures of it up close. So yes, it is round. And according to the Earth pictures, it is round. Now you got to ask the question, are those real pictures or are they cartoons? I don't know the answer to that. I have seen a bunch of pictures of the Earth. Every one I have ever seen looks like a cartoon. It doesn't look real. How do I know what real looks like if you don't have any reference? Well, I mean, I know certain things like how light works and how depth works, and you don't see that. And also how nature works, i.e., clouds don't typically repeat themselves to perfection, like copy and paste. But yes, according to conventional wisdom, everything in the universe has a spherical shape. Unless it's small. If it's small, then it can have a rocky shape. Anything that's big and has mass typically shapes into a sphere according to science. Maureen says, Amanda, nah, I think I'll keep all my parts where God put them originally. Amen, Maureen. Amanda says, LOL, right, Maureen? Bill says, surround yourself with nice, God-fearing, like-minded people and enjoy. Exactly. That is entirely the point, Bill. There's a lot of people in the world that don't fear God, and that's what all of this is about. Debbie says, I pull a lot of time and food into my busted biscuits. I put a lot of time into my food and busted biscuits. Waistline, I think I will keep it. Right on. If you earned it, you should be proud of it. I agree with that. Especially if them biscuits are delicious. Kind of hard to beat that. Amanda says, LOL, I hear you, Debbie. Aaron says, The Island, the movie. That's a good movie, too. Not the one I was thinking of, but it is a good movie. And I think it came out about that time, too. That movie is based on a Philip K. Dick novel. Maureen says, yep, we were taught consequences as we grew up. Amen to that. Amber says, that's creepy as F. And Debbie says, I will do weird things to people for money. As you should. And I caveated that with not the stuff you want them to do. Weird things like take advantage of you, steal from you, put you in a catatonic state, put The stuff you put in your car. What's that stuff called? Put it in your radiator. Antifreeze. Put antifreeze in your coffee. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Amber says, LOLOL, Maureen. When I had my son and my grandfather told me if I didn't have control over him before he got my knee high, I never would. And he's not scared of me yet. There's a healthy fear. As it should be, Amber. That's the way God intended it to happen. Spare the rod, spoil the child. You're right. Your granddad knew something. And that's what's wrong with this generation. None of them have had their ass tore up properly. Maureen says, Amber, LOL. Wasteland Game says, are you aware of the Omegaverse? Yes, and other video games. Wasteland, I've heard many theories. All of them are lacking. Amber says, delivery. Some of the vendors accept my EBT with free delivery. Much more cost and time benefiting. I hear you. And Maureen says, Amber, cool. Amber says, I'm not sorry. I'll tell them I'm not. I'd say, bless your little heart, and I'll pray for you. I don't know what you're referring to there. So sad, destroying your body. Yes, correct, Amber. That is exactly what people are doing this day. Doing things to their body that cannot be reversed. And there's going to come a point in every one of their lives when they realize that they can't go back, that they have ruined the one thing they had. And that's going to be a sad day for all of them. Maureen says she's been fixed, but I guess she still wants to go adventuring. Right on. Well, they don't know that they've been fixed. They're cats. You can't beat out of the hide what's in the blood. That's what my mama used to say. Amber says, curiosity. Colin, what's up, buddy? He says, hey, y'all, I just got done attempting to clean a grease trap drain. Now I smell like shit. I think you might have been in the wrong drain there, buddy. You should smell like oil. If you smell like shit, you pulled the wrong plug. Amanda says, Colin, hamburger upper hand. Amber says, they weren't taught respect as little ones. Amen. Well, you need to teach your children how to respect their elders and how to watch their tongue. This is a thing that increasingly this generation doesn't know how to do. They don't know how to not say something that they're thinking, which is bad for everybody. Colin says, hey, Amanda. Amber says, thanks for the warning, Colin. Open the window, please. Colin says, well, the drain is still clogged, which means you did that for nothing. Here's a point of contention there, Colin. When you start a job, finish it. There's no point in doing something if you don't end with the end result desired. We might need an electric drain snake. I would imagine if you can't get to it by hand, you might. Because I was using a manual drain snake. Well, if you're using a manual one, just plunge it. Just keep pushing. It'll eventually come out. Aaron says, dang, Jake using the big brain today with the math. I was like, So Valen says, hi, beautiful people. Please pay attention to me. Me. My birthday is Friday. I told you last night, but just in case you forgot, I'll tell you again today. Heaven forbid anybody not notice me. Hi, Soph. Today is Friday. Today is the day that you told me last time I spoke to you that your birthday was. Actually, you said 6 days, which would have made it Sunday. But today is Saturday. So now it's more days. Next Friday. I meant to say today is Saturday, which is the day you said, but it was Sunday. You said Wednesday that it was 6 days away, which would have made it, 4 days away, which would have made it Sunday. Amanda says, Soph, hamburger, help her hand. And hide, Aaron. Hide from the math? Oh, no, not the math. Amber says, it's horrible self-mutilation. It really is. Like there's people that split their tongues. What is that all about? What do you get out of that? I wouldn't want a split tongue. My tongue barely functions as it is. Aaron says, shite. Or shit. One of those. I'm not sure which. Amber says, yo, green team, your girl is here. Go stand over there. Aaron says, I've had 6 birthdays this year. I'm 406. All right. Soph says, how are you guys feeling today, guys? Like we're in a locker room with aliens that are built by computers. Aaron says, Amber, she for the circuit boards. Amanda says, every system update is a birthday, LOL. Maybe so. Maybe that's what it is. Debbie says, Aaron, is that one birthday for every personality? Amber says, I'd green team all y'all. That sounded like a threat. Colin says, well, it was really clogged. Well, get to it, Colin. You'll get it. Why don't I come do it? Because I don't have a desire to mess with your clogs, your drain. But if you come to me and bring it to my attention, I will tell you how to do it. Because that's why you came and brought it to my attention. Clearly. Otherwise, you entirely missed the point of this podcast. Amber says, my birthday is in August. I got you down. Colin says, mine is in July. Amber says, July when? Colin says, July 7th. And Debbie says, Colin, I will come over with a can of hairspray and a lighter, and we'll see if we can melt the grease. That would be interesting. Amber says, nice. 4th of July party. I'm jealous. Amanda says, no, hide, Aaron, from Soph, LOL, not math. Oh. Colin says, it's really deep. The drain is like 100 feet. You might need more than a snake then. A snake is for house drains. Amber says, smiley, 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 Debbie. And nope, Miss Hammer, he's bait. Damn, Aaron, you're bait. Colin says, and the clog is around 60 feet. Yeah, you're definitely going to need something more than a snake. Debbie says, okay, Colin, then bring a blowtorch. Right? Or then bring a blowtorch. Amber says, I have a plumber friend. Nice. Those are nice to have. Colin says, no flam, it's plastic. No flame, it's plastic. Or PVC. Amber says, Colin, Go to the fireworks that Trump will have. Yeah, M80 will unclog it for sure. Aaron says, where's Fab? You louse ass? Louse ass? Where's Fab, you louse ass? I don't know. I have not seen Fab Daddy tonight. He might be lurking, though. Amber says, rap song. How's it if it's plastic? How's it you if it's plastic? Yeah, I don't know what that means. Maureen says, I have one of those pump things to clear pipes, like when the toilet backs up. Right on. That's a good thing to have, or the thing you put on the end of the hose that swells up and seals. I've got 4 of those, and they don't work. Or I've got the wrong one, which is possible. But that's what they had, so I bought it. Amanda says, since when is grease trap 60 feet? And why are you putting grease down the drain? Right, if you got a drain, if it's a house drain, you shouldn't be putting grease in it. A grease trap should be shallow and easy to empty. That's what it's for, to catch grease and then have it removed. Amber says, fabulous. It's a chord or a hook in a rap song. It is? How is it you if it's plastic? Must be talking about plastic surgery. I get it, though. I understand. Rap is not really my thing, but I understand. But I have done it before. And we'll do it again. If the money's right. Right. Amanda, right. Plastic surgery, not real. LOL. Aaron says, we are fabulous. Oh, I see. When I saw Fab, I thought Fab Daddy, not fabulous. I get it now. Makes perfect sense. I'm with you, dog. Got to get that throat open up. I've been playing my Les Paul like crazy. It is fun and delicious. It sounds great. Amber says, clear as mud, 10-4. All right. So, what is the deal with all of this alien stuff coming out? What do you guys think about that? Where do you fall on the alien stuff? Do you think they're visiting? Do you think they're demons? Do you think they're interdimensional beings from the future? Do you think they're from over the ice wall in Antarctica and on the other parts of the earth? It's the realm of the earth. Where do you think they're from? Do you think they're Chinese drones? To that, I would say, let's see if I can remember what year it was. I think it was 2024. It might be 2027, which is next year. I think it's 2024. Go look up Chinese Olympics 2024 and look at their drone display. And when you see what they can actually do with drones, it will become clear to you that these little random spots that are being seen by grainy videos that are taken from planes, entirely possible. Aaron says, if it's a house drain, then it has a clean out somewhere. Outside, all he has to do is open the pipe, and then you heat it up with a heat gun and run water from the sink, and it'll push it out. Not a bad idea. Unless you're at my house, which has a clean out on both sides of the drain, but the drain does all the bending in the middle. Amber says, same as the mud comment. 10-4. Amanda says, I think they are angels or spirits. That's a good assumption. I think so too. I think they are what Ezekiel saw and what Job saw and what countless other people in the Bible saw and reported and what has been talked about all through the ages. Alexander the Great saw something. Constantine saw something. Columbus saw something. I think that's what they're seeing. Same thing. I think it's always been here. That's my opinion. I don't know. Could be aliens. I personally think that anybody that believes that there's life out there and it could come here does not understand fundamentally how big space is. I don't think you grasp it. Because in my opinion, life can't come here from another planet. It's not possible. Not according to what I know about science and physics. It's not possible. Now, if you come up with something that bars science or physics, well, that's in the realm of fantasy then. That's not science or physics. So I can't very well say that, no, that doesn't happen. It could, but that's fantastic. That's not something I could base in reality. So it could be that, but I don't think it is. Most things follow the laws of physics pretty strictly. I haven't seen anything that doesn't. I put that in the same category as ghosts. Well, show me one and we can talk. Until then, it's in the fantasy realm. Pardon me. Maureen says, I don't and won't worry about it. Or them until I encounter them. Smart. Amber says, I know there's angels with us, both kind and evil. I speak with or to them randomly. You shouldn't do that. The Bible is very clear not to worship anything but God. Or pray to anything but God. But I understand what you're saying, and I have done so too. But then I learned you shouldn't do that. So I'm telling you, you shouldn't do that. Amanda says, but as long as they don't bother me, I don't care about them. And I feel that same way too. I've never seen a UFO. That's the problem with all of this. It's getting a lot of press, and I've never seen one. And I'm in the world, and I do everyday things. Why don't I see one? I have trouble believing in things I can't see with my own eyes. So until I see one, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over it, but it is a curiosity, and I do like to think about it. Debbie says, white dots flying across the sky. I think it's probably more of a surveillance thing, probably just scanning for something. What that something is, who knows, right? Well, all aircraft have cameras and radar. And that's what these images are. They're like tracking systems for targeting or their radar imagery for other aircraft coming into their airspace or whatever. They're not good quality, and all you ever see is a white dot or a black blur. That's it. You don't ever see anything with definition, which I have a problem with because we have iPhones that can do pretty much make movies with them, including special effects and up close, high definition shots. Why can't we get a good image of a UFO if that's the case when everybody has a camera now? And they're all over the streets too. Here's another problem I have. We have agencies that monitor the oceans and the skies for such things as impending asteroid doom or spaceships coming into our airspace. How come they don't ever see any of this stuff? If they are aliens, they had to come from outside to come in here, which means they had to cross through the barrier of the sky, which means somebody who's watching the sky saw it. Why don't we have that? There's just too much going on here for me to believe it wholesale. But there is something going on, and it has been here for a long time, which is why I believe it's angels. But it's a belief. I can't prove that either. I got a moth flying around me. Go away, moth. You can't have my coffee. Maureen says, your chat's about to jump. Hang on. Maureen says, me too, Amber. Amber says, spirits, yes, I feel different ones. Right on. Amber says, ones around me and call them by name. Ooh, don't do that. You shouldn't know them by name. If you know them by name, something is talking to you that's not supposed to be talking to you. I try to stick with my guardian angel. Well, the Bible does say something about having an angel that keeps its face directed at you. But I don't think you're supposed to know they're there. Amber says, my intuition and such is way too strong. Right on. Maureen, I believe I'm blessed with 3. Ooh, scary. Bill says the shit we see is us in the future. You think so? How is that? You know time travel isn't possible because the thing in the future hasn't happened yet and the thing in the past already has. It's not sitting somewhere on a different universe. It happened. It's over. So you can't go back to it. So, how is it from us from the future? What mathematical process would cause that? Maureen says, Amber's awesome. Colin says, dwell or well. We don't get it pumped. It drains into a creek with a dam. And I told my mom and grandpa, but they said we always had done it ourselves and if recommended to get it pumped. So you're draining your waste into a creek? That'll work for you. Not sure how it goes for the people downstream. You guys don't have a septic tank? Amber says randomly different family members and friends hit my mind. I randomly pray for them. It's kind of weird. Monkey Juice says, hey, Monkey Juice, if there is aliens, with which I believe, have no idea about their technology. Yeah, well, we can see some of it. They can move faster than we can if they are aliens. So there is that much technology because they're in a craft, which is technical. I can't imagine it. Like I said, if it goes outside of physics and math, then that's in the realm of fantasy, and I can't speak to that. So I don't know what that could be, like time travel and such like that. But if they are in a craft made of metal or some other material, that's technology. So we can infer ideas based on how they move, such as inertial. Inertial dampeners are used in airplanes so that when they maneuver, it doesn't kill the pilot. The way these things move, like a right angle turn instantaneously at high rates of speed, you can't do that. That would kill the pilot. Like turn them into mayonnaise. And your body would just die. You can't do that. Instant acceleration, you can't do that either. You got to work up to it. The body is very fragile, even an alien one. So how are they doing that? That must mean you can infer that they're inside of some kind of bubble that shields them from inertia. That would be zero-point energy or gravity manipulation, something like that. So you can infer these ideas. That doesn't mean that you know it. It just means that you can think about it on a physics template and get some kind of understanding of what it is you're seeing. The only thing we know for sure is that there's a white dot on a camera screen somewhere. We know that. What it is could be anything, a reflection, a bird, a drone. UFO does not mean from another planet. It just means you don't know what it is. Maureen says, I don't mess with the paranormal. Maureen, that's probably wise. The Bible talks about that in the book of Isaiah, or the book of Samuel, rather. And it tells you very clearly to stay away from what we would call paranormal things. Astrology and divining and talking to the dead and necromancy, those kind of things, which that's what they called it then. We call it now paranormal. It says to stay away from that. God doesn't intend for us to be part of that. You're not supposed to talk to the dead or know the future. So, Amanda says, monkey juice, monkey and hamburger help brand. There's Linda. Hi, Linda. Linda says, good evening, all. How you doing, Linda? Amber says, me either. Monkey Juice says, there's definitely life out there besides ours. Prove it. How do you know that? And don't give me some Occam's razor nonsense because you have no evidence that there's life out there of any kind. So definitely is the wrong word because you don't know that to be true. So where is this life besides ours? What if I told you that everything out there was dead? Because that's not where life was intended to be. Everything out there has a function, serves a purpose, does a thing for this place right here. Because this is where the magic is. This is where the life is. There's not even trees on other planets. Not even grass. Not even amoebas that we've found. We have found amino acids in comets, but there's a disconnect there too. See, I think comets came from the Earth when the flood occurred. All that ice was kicked up into space, and now it's floating around our solar system. And science says that they came from an Oort cloud, which we cannot see. We can see the radiation at the end of the galaxy, and we can see with James Webb Telescope the farthest galaxies known to man, but we can't see the Oort cloud, which is right outside of our galaxy, which is bullshit because that's not real. And also, they're only the comets that are here. There's never been a new one, just the ones that we've always had, which lets you to believe they were here to start with. Amber says, Linda, cherries and hearts with stars in them. Amanda says, Linda, hamburger brand. Maureen says, UFOs and other reports are likely just look over here, not over there kind of thing. I agree. Why Trump is releasing all that now is a mystery. But the way they used it in the past, as I said, anytime something was going on and they talked about it in the news, UFOs, you could directly tie that to some mysterious thing the military was doing or the government was doing, or somebody was in trouble for something and they didn't want you focusing on it. That's when aliens came up in the past. But this is different. Now Trump is releasing everything they know about UFOs to the public. It's kind of weird. But I tend to agree with you. I think they use it as a smokescreen. NORAD is a facility that looks for missiles in this planet. They do not trace life on other planets. Nice try, though. Bill Bennett says the aliens live here under. That is a theory. I've heard that one too. The hollow earth and all of that. Or the infinite plane, that on the other side of Antarctica's ice wall, there's more continents, and we're not privy to that information. And that's them coming from over there to here. I've heard that one too. Admiral Byrd found a hole in the North Pole that went down into the hollow earth. Bill Bennett says, water and land, LOL. Monkey Juice says, the universe is massive and incomprehensible. That's correct. Also empty and void of life. Also correct. Remember the Fermi's paradox? If the neighborhood is full of people, where's everybody at? They're not there. That's because science is directly geared to remove God from academia. But the Bible tells you there's nothing out there. The stars are there to make this place work right. They're there for signs and seasons and wonders in the sky, but they're not for life. Life happens here. This place was designed for life. That's why no other place has any. Amber says, Bill, good evening. Maureen says, pilots used to report UFOs. Yeah, they called them the Luftwaffe. But it would affect their jobs, so they stopped reporting or limited it. Right. Yeah, because people would make them sound crazy if they said that they saw a UFO. But the Luftwaffe were common in World War II. They saw them a lot. Little buzzy things that would buzz their aircraft and fly alongside of their wings and such. Strange little orb-like critters. Nobody knows what that is. Colin says, it's a grease trap. All right. Then you should be able to take it out. Trap. To trap. Not to drain into the creek and clog up. It's not a shit tank. Well, a septic tank is for shit. A grease trap is for grease. Yes. Apparently, you have neither because you're dumping it into the river, according to you. So which is it? And don't get snappy with me. I'll smack you down, little boy. Bill Bennett says, bending space times 6 dimensions. Well, there's reported to be at least 11 dimensions. And they have talked about bending space-time, but they've never done it. They're not even sure that you can do it. That's a theory that's posited by Albert Einstein in his general relativity theory. But nobody's actually sure that you could survive going through a wormhole, let alone traverse from another portion of the galaxy to here in one. They're not entirely sure what that is, let alone how to make it work. But it would be a good theory, but that's in the realm of fantasy, not in the realm of science. Colin says, I recommended to get a pump, but they got mad. They shouldn't get mad at you for being smart. And the grease trap never gets pumped. That would be bad. Colin says they're so ignorant they don't want to get it pumped. They want to do it themselves, which is dumb. Well, that may be. But they've been doing it their way for a long time. Maybe they got a point. If it works, it works. And doesn't cost any money. I get where they're coming from, but you might have a point. And Debbie says, Colin, just go rent an auger that Roto-Rooter uses. It will eliminate that grease and roots and whatever else is in it. Yep, the old Roto-Rooter. Can't beat that. Aaron says it still has a clean out. If it doesn't, it's not to code. Right on. Cowboys 8 panel. Hello, darling. How are you? What do you think about aliens? What's your thoughts on all this that's going on? And the Trump hatred fever pitch. We hadn't even talked about the lockdown hoax. Monkey Juice says, so you believe in a God you've never seen, but aliens are not, or out. No. No. I have a book that's 4,000 years old that correctly reports everything that has happened in that 4,000 years and is correct. And it tells me that I was created. And then I went and did some research and found out it was correct about everything it's postulated. So I inferred that it was correct about that. That's one thing. Second thing is you can feel God when you open up to him. If you deny God, he won't be part of your life. But if you open up to him, you can feel his presence. That is a physical thing, right? There's that. You can say aliens, but I've seen no proof of an alien. I've never seen a UFO or an alien or any documented case of one that's clear. Not even one. I've seen some pretty good ones, but they fall apart in the end. You give me one piece of evidence that proves there's an alien and I'll believe it. But there's not any out there. But to just conflate a God I've never seen is disingenuous. Not only have I seen God, I've experienced God on a personal level, and I teach God from the book he left for us to be learned from. So that's a little different. Colin says, Debbie, why don't we just get it pumped? Well, you'd have to ask your parents about that. It's their grease trap. If they want to get it pumped, they will. Maybe they don't have the money to get it pumped. Maybe that's why. Maybe they think they can do it better. Maybe that's why. Maybe they had a bad experience with the pumper. Maybe they had a pimple popper. Who knows? Aaron says, that's a good question. Amanda says we can absolutely prove God, and that's correct. There is proof of God. Just because you refuse it doesn't make it not true. You can only prove God through a book. No, I can prove God through a tree. I can prove God through everything you see. I can prove God through you. The evidence of God is overwhelming. The evidence of alien is at best, intermittent. And I've seen all of it. I've watched all of the footage. I've seen all of the documentaries. I've listened to all of the experts. I've looked at all of the evidence. I've seen nothing that would lead me to believe that that is a true statement, that there is a living being outside of this planet that could come here. There might be something out there somewhere, but it ain't anywhere near us. I can promise you that. And I'm not just talking out of my ass. But as for proof of God, you'd have to be awful dumb not to see that. Look outside. Look at everything in the world. Look at things like oil, for example. What does oil do? Do you know? Why is it here? Why does oil exist? Do you know? If you don't, you should look into it. What about gold? Why does gold exist? What does it provide or do? And before you say, well, it's just an element. No. You can't have it both ways. You can't believe the Darwinist theory of evolution and randomness at the same time. You can't. Either everything has a purpose or it don't. You can't use the argument both ways to fit your needs. You can't say, well, everything has a purpose, that's why evolution, and then say, well, it's just gold, it's just there. No. It has to have a purpose. So what is it? Yep, Amanda says, nope, God is proven every day, and he is. Every day and in every way. You just have to look for it. Debbie says, Colin, because if it was not put in right, calling someone to do it can get you in trouble and require fines till it is done right. Some will turn you in. It is a trust thing, if you know what I mean. Yes, there's that too. I was trying to be nice, but that most likely they're not up to code and dumping waste into the river, and if they called somebody to pump it out, they'd go to jail. That's right. Colin says it's not just a book. There's factual proof. Correct. And in a lot of it, not just a little bit. Everything that it says, everything that they look for, everything that they go to discover, they find. It is exactly the truth. Talking about the Bible. Amber says, good evening, cowboy. Cherries and smiley faces. Monkey Juice says, much of the Bible is being proven by archaeology. Yes, that is correct. That's one way of proving it, because it said it, and then we go find it. So, yeah, that's fact. The things that you can't prove, like the existence of God, you have to take on faith. But even still, there are plenty of proofs out there, like a seed. Do you understand how trees are made? And do you understand that they're all clones of themselves? They're not like us. They're not individual strains of different trees. All oak trees are related because they're clones of themselves, because everything that makes an oak tree is in a seed. That's what makes an oak tree of itself. Where does the seed come from? The oak tree. Do you follow me? You can't have a tree without a seed. But where does the seed come from? The tree. Which means, what came first? The tree. Chicken and egg. What came first? The chicken. That's how you know God put it there. And there just ain't no other way to see it. Otherwise, you'd have to explain to me how an egg evolved and from what. Maureen said that to Richard. I'm sorry. I thought Richard said that. Maureen says, Richard, much of the Bible is being proven by archaeology. And that is correct. I thought Richard had a intelligent moment there. I'm sorry. Like, subscribe, share, support, join, and if you can, that would be nice. Thank you very much. Amber says, isn't Richard Monkey Juice? Yeah, that's why I call him Monkey Juice. Colin says, Jake's chat's going to jump. Hang on. I'll find it. Thank you. Can't we rent a vacation truck? Can't we rent a vacuum truck? I don't know. Monkey Juice says, prove it, Colin. Don't just say it. What are we talking about? What is a vacation truck? I think he meant vacuum truck. What? Oh, I can prove that every day. I'm the guy you asked that question. Colin says, there's God robe in a museum, and they actually have the nail that held him. No. There is the Shroud of Turin is what you're talking about, and that was Christ's robe. And it wasn't a robe, it was a burial cloth. And they do have some nails from the crucifixion era, but they don't know for sure that it was in him. But there is plenty of evidence that Christ existed. Even Josephus wrote about the description of Christ because he spoke to people that knew him. There's plenty of firsthand evidence that Christ existed. Over 500 accounts, actually. And once again, a book you read, correct. But it's not just a book, and to call it that would be disingenuous. It is a library of over 66 books. It used to be more. Written by at least that many authors over a span of about 4,000 years. 4,000 years. Written by people who did not share the same religion or the same belief systems or even the same country. and had no idea that anybody would ever read their writing except for the person they were writing to. And somehow they all compiled into a library of books 4,000 years later that not only tells a through-line story from cover to cover, but every book hyperlinks to every other book in such a way that you can't call it a coincidence. It was, in fact, inspired by God. That's the only way to call it. It correctly predicts the future 234 times. One time would be enough. But it does. It's not a guess. The book is accurate. And to call it just a book is showing your unintelligence about the matter. It's not just a book you read. It is, in fact, the handbook of life. And it is, in fact, the most important knowledge you can put in your brain in your lifetime. If you don't, you have missed the entire point of being here. It literally is the most important thing you can know. It's also the book which all other literature stands upon. You know, we invented the printing press to copy the Bible. That's why all other books exist, the Bible. There would be no other literature if not for that book. Many people have gone to their deaths protecting that book, keeping it alive. I challenge you to write anything down and see where it is a year from now. Let alone to have scores of people across every continent studying your words and knowing your name and your life story 4,000 years later. Think about that for a minute. Just think about that. Write anything down. They didn't even have paper. They wrote it on animal skins and parchment. And yet it survives. Why? How? Where's all the other literature from that era by those people who wrote many other things besides what's in the Bible? Amanda says they have found almost everything the Bible says at facts, such as the ark. Yes. Almost everything they've gone looking for, they found. It is a factual document. Colin says, not RV. Not RV. Amber says, LOL, Maureen. I thought about a motorhome. I must have missed something. Oh, I see. Amber says, yes, you can rent RVs, but not a vacation truck. I think he meant vacuum truck. Colin says, a vacuum truck. Yep, that's what I thought he meant. Amanda says, no, they have proof of the ark and where it is. Yes. Maureen says, oh, okay, Colin. Amber says, sounds like the Kirby people, Colin, the company that rents vacuums. There's others like TriStar. I used to work for TriStar. I used to sell vacuum cleaners when I was a kid. That thing was impressive. It could do all kinds of stuff. It could float steel balls. It could paint your house, cut your hair, suck your couch flat in a bag. The only thing it couldn't do, vacuum your floor. Amber says, or a septic tank or sewer company. Right. Colin says, no, a vacuum truck that hydro excavates. You could do that, but it would cost a lot. And we have both septic and grease. Right on. Maureen says, Colin, search and you can find a septic tank pump truck that might be able to help you. And Colin says, they will turn me in. They might. If you go trying to get outside people to come in and mess around your personal business and you're not doing things up to snuff, you may very well get in trouble, and that may be what your parents, who obviously know more than you do, are trying to stop you from doing. Maybe that's why they got mad. Maybe trust your parents. Maybe they're trying to protect you and you just can't see it. because as is the rest of the world, and this is a case study that is perfect for this conversation, there's a lot of people in this generation that just can't see beyond their own noses. They have no idea what's actually happening in the world around them. They only think they know everything from their perspective. And once they get out there and do the arrogant thing that they adamantly demand that they do, then reality hits them in the face and they realize that these people were trying to protect them all along and they didn't know what they were doing. And now they're in trouble. So there's that. Trust your parents. They probably know something you don't know. Aaron says if it gets struck by lightning, and then he will have a grease lightning, right? If it gets struck by lightning and have grease lightning, yep, that's true. Maureen says, I try to have my septic pumped every 10 to 15 years just so I don't have to worry about it. I am way out in the country. Yeah, I just buy a box of that septic tank eater stuff, pour it in. Bob's your uncle. It empties it out quite nicely. Unfortunately, though, I have other issues with our septic situation here that I have to solve, such as the guy that put the pipes in didn't know what he was doing. Amber says, LOL, LOL, Aaron. LOL, LOL. Oh, LOL. Debbie says, Colin, then I suggest you get a shovel and dig up the pipe and replace it and do it right this time. You could do that. You could put in a new pipe. That might be easier than trying to trudge out the old one. Isn't that a song, says Amber? Oh, LOL. That one is. Put in a new pipe and shovel it? I don't think that's the one you're thinking of. Take this pipe and shovel it. I ain't trudging it no more. Or Grease Lightning. Yes, that is a song. Aaron says, yes, from the movie, Grease Lightning. Colin says, I dug it up, but they want to keep it. Yeah, then do what you got to do, buddy. Maureen says, Amber, yep, it's from the movie Grease. Richard says, or Monkey Juice says, Trump brought the hate upon himself. Did he now? How is that exactly? How did Trump bring the hate upon himself? He ran for president. He endeavored to clean up the corruption. He somehow thought he should be the president that was elected. Exactly how did he bring the hate upon himself? Hate. By that logic, everybody that does something for the good of the people should be hated. I don't think that's right. Amber says, my screen says 19 people are here and only 9 likes. That means 10 of you haven't hit that like button. It's now 13 likes. And hit that like button, everybody. Also, like, share, subscribe, and support if you can. Amber says, who doesn't like us? Ollie Oxenfree. Amber says, I remember a funky upbeat song, Grease Lightning. Yep. Colin says, and it doesn't matter if it works. It matters if we get caught. Yeah, it matters both. Don't get caught and make sure it works. Also, endeavor to do it right. That might be the thing. That way you don't have to worry about getting caught. Maybe don't dump it into the river. That might be a good thing. Cowboys 8 Pound says, I think there are different life forms here on Earth. Some just know how to hide. I think that's true. I don't think it's a simple thing at all. I think it's very complicated. And I think that there's things that have always been here that we don't necessarily see every day. Amber says, Colin, I know speaking English. You get caught? Maureen says, just look around and you can see God's work all around us. And look into the face of any baby and you can see the miracle God produces every time a new human is born. Amen to that. If you can't see it, you ain't looking. It's that simple. I don't know how you can experience the world in front of you and not see God's presence. I understand that that's my opinion, but I honestly can't tell. I don't understand how you can see the world that is in front of you in all of its glory and not know that the hand of God created it. Now, what God is, where God is, why God is, who God is, we can argue that all day long. But that there's a God, that's not arguable. Look around. Here's the thought. You make me one of these, but use your own material. You can't use the material God made. You got to make your own. Debbie says, I was on a thread yesterday that said God is an advocate of abortion. No, he's not. That there are scriptures proving it. No, there's not. I called them Luciferians. You are correct. And they showed me lots of love, but never denied it. Yeah, see, that's the thing. This whole abortion thing, the way it's done in our country specifically, from the what is the name of that lady? I can't remember her name now. I'm thinking Ian Rand, but not her, the other one. The one that did the pill. You know who I'm talking about. I can't think of her name. But from her perspective, they started this third wave feminism movement and then championed abortion the way that they're doing it. Margaret Sanger, thank you. Yeah, her. Margaret Sanger. What that is exactly the same phenomena as worshiping Moloch was in the old days, where they would bring their children to the fire and they would place their children on a burning altar, a brass bull made out of brass with his hands outstretched like this, and then you would place the baby on it and the hands would drop the baby into the fire while the child burned alive, and the drummers would play louder so that people couldn't hear the children screaming. It's the same practice. They are worshiping Moloch and sacrificing to a deity every day in every city where they have these clinics doing that very thing. It is the same practice. Sacrifice the child for the whims of the parent, or for the good of the parent, or for whatever the parent perceives to be beneficial to them. Sacrificing the child for the parent. That is the same practice. And that is a happy God these days, and I really hope that we can stop it. Amber says, hiding in the wide open is the easiest way to hide. Sometimes. Maureen says, Amber, too true. Look at a bee. By all arguments, they should not be able to fly, but they do. Correct. Yeah, mathematically, a bee doesn't work. It's too bulbous and its wings are too small and don't beat fast enough to pick it up. Yet it flies. Same thing with a helicopter. Darwin lost his court case. Too many seem to think he won, says Maureen. Also, an interesting fact about Darwin is the only degree that he possessed was in theology. He was a failed preacher. Another person that had weak faith and couldn't hack it in the world of preaching. So he went the other direction. But he was not a scientist, and not especially a smart man, and most of his ideas came from his uncle. Aaron says, diamond has no purpose. Correct. There's a lot of things that have only one purpose, and that is because we like it, or because we need it, like oil. The only thing oil does is benefit us in the form of burning it to make energy. Same thing with coal. What do those things do? What purpose do they serve on planet Earth? They don't. They're the only things that don't, and they benefit humans directly because they were put here by God for us to use. Diamonds, the only thing they are is pretty. They don't do anything else. There's no process that diamonds do that benefits the earth. They just look good on a ring. That's what they're for. And some say that they have a good electric conductive or semiconductor properties. So they might be useful in circuit boards and such. And you also can use them to cut with. They're very sharp, very hard. Can I get a refill on this coffee, please? Thank you. Debbie says, and by love, I mean I was called names I cannot repeat in polite conversation, right? They showed you their kind of love. You don't have to worry about that here. I won't let nobody call you names. You can say whatever you like. Monkey Juice says, exactly. Elements of 50 billion years of Earth's matter was discovered by man. Well, you're wrong about that. From your first premise, you have no evidence that 50 billion years has ever come and gone. That is a number that was invented by man whole cloth. They have no proof of that whatsoever. That is just hyperbole. Number two, Earth's matter did not create the elements. Earth's matter is made up of the elements. According to science, the elements were produced in a star. But I would like to know how you refine past something like hydrogen. How do you get the elements that are lower than hydrogen? How does that work? By what process do those things evolve? How do you get iron out of hydrogen? Hydrogen comes first, it's by itself on the periodic table. Look at the periodic table, it'll tell you what came and how it came and where it came from. How do you get that from that? Until you can answer that, we really can't talk about this. And I'm guessing you don't know the answers to these questions. Therefore, you're on your back foot already. This is not going to go your way. You should probably listen to me. Soph says, happy Mother's Day for tomorrow, guys. I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day to celebrate with your mums. Yes, happy Mother's Day to everybody. And on Mother's Day, thank you. On Mother's Day, we will address that. But today is Saturday. But tomorrow, happy Mother's Day. And thank you, Soph. Aaron says, I didn't even know Mother's Day was tomorrow. Now you know. You better get down to the store and get your cards. Oak trees produce oxygen, says Monkey Juice. Yes, they do, but not as much as plankton. 85 to 90% of our oxygen come from plankton in the sea. Plants do produce oxygen, but not nearly enough for us to breathe. The plankton are what do that mostly. Now, trees also eat carbon dioxide. That's what makes them grow and turn green and produce oxygen, which we breathe. Want to guess what we release when we exhale? It's almost like it's a symbiotic relationship, which is what everything on planet Earth does. Every single thing benefits something else. Everything. And the things that don't benefit us. They're here for us. That's how you know God. Amber says, hugs, y'all. I'm going to put Amazon away and get a snack. Sounds good. A little cinnamon toast or something. Amber says, hugs, my favorites. Well, hug you back. We love you. Thank you for being here, Amber. Cowboy says, thanks, Soph. Rose. Aaron says, I got to honor my mom tomorrow in some way and make it through it. You have to honor her. You don't have to like her. So do your job, be polite, and get out of there. Maureen says, and happy Mother's Day to all. Hang on. Sorry, my chat jumped. Maureen says, and happy Mother's Day to all the dads who have to be both dad and mom. Thank you, Maureen. That's very lovely. Amber says, happiest Mother's Day, ladies. Prayers and smiley faces and hearts. Monkey Juice says 40 billion years is a long time for Earth to evolve. I thought you said 50 a minute ago. Which is it? You don't know because you're making numbers up. There's no evidence that 1 billion years has ever come to pass. It takes more faith to believe in 1 billion years than it takes to believe 6,000 years that God created. But I think it's probably more like 20, but whatever. 6,000 years of mankind. I don't know how long the earth has been here, but mankind has been here about 6,000 years. Amanda says science finally said the chicken came first. Did they? When did they say that? I'd like to hear that, and I want to put it on a frame and stick it up on the wall. The chicken did come first. Maureen says, absolutely, Aaron. Amanda says the earth is only about 7,000 years old. Monkey Juice says 7,000? That's as good a number as yours. There's more proof of mine, though, just so you know. Amanda says the existence of the world is only about 7,000 years old. No such thing as millions of years. True. No matter how many times you repeat it. Doesn't make it true. Maureen says if you do not have the time and or patience to read the Bible, you can get a recording and listen to it. Or come here and I'll read it to you and explain it to you as we go. Bill Bennett says, hope to see you all at Bible study tomorrow. God bless all and good night, Bill. God bless you, my friend. Have a good night. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the jewels. Amanda says, good night, Bill. Cowboy says, bless, Bill. Monkey Juice says, I can't even comment on the ark and the flood. Well, I don't know why you can't. I can. I can show you where the thing's at. I can show you how it happened. Where it happened, who was involved, where they went. All the details that you need. I don't know why you can't. Pretty interesting that the Bible says that the ark came to rest in the Ararat Mountains in Turkey. And if you go there and look, there just happens to be a ark-shaped escarpment of rock right there where it says that it would be, in the exact dimensions it said it would be. In the exact location it said it would be, for as long as it said it would be. And then when you go doing some ground-penetrating radar and some scientific studies of that area, you find organic materials that shouldn't be there inside of rock. Imagine that. That is the ark. And the flood, there's evidence of the flood on every continent, everywhere you look. The salt flats, the sand dunes, the deserts, the canyons, everywhere you look, the erosion, it's all there. To ignore it would be doing mental gymnastics to avoid it, because the evidence is plain. And so science has to invent things to make up excuses for why these things are there, such as the mini floods or the Younger Dryas impact theory or whatever it is they come up with big words to try to describe what the Bible said was there. None of it has any proof. And Amanda says, because you know it's true, you can't prove otherwise, monkey. Yep. And Amanda says the stuff you pour in the septic tank, septic heater, or Rid X, both of those are very good. Monkey Juice says Trump's just unlikable. Well, I like him. So, no, he's not. He's unlikable to you because you're a beta male and you don't like alpha males. Is that what it is? I'm just teasing you, buddy. Monkey Juice says, you got to like. Of course I like. Well, thank you. Amanda says archaeology has identified dozens of named individuals mentioned in the Bible through inscriptions, seals, bullia, and records from neighboring empires: Assyrian, Babylonian, Egyptian, etc. Old Testament, New Testament in Hebrew. Old Testament Hebrew. Places, cities, cultures, hundreds of sites, cities, and religions mentioned in the Bible have been located and excavated, often matching biblical descriptions in location, timing, and features. So much so they invented a new dating process just to avoid that, called BCE. Anytime you hear the words BCE, they have shifted the dates so that whatever they're looking at doesn't match the Bible. That's exactly why they invented that. BC works just fine. Amanda says over 25,000 archaeological sites in the biblical lands have been identified, many aligning with biblical geography and history. Amen to that. Monkey Juice says Jake's definitely likable. Well, that's debatable too, but thank you. I appreciate that. Cowboy says, who has read the Ethiopian Bible? I've read parts of it. I haven't read the whole thing. Amanda says God created the earth to work together. Nothing can survive without at least one other thing. Correct. That is true. Everything on planet Earth is symbiotic. It requires something else to survive. That's right. Maureen says, Cowboys, I want to get an Ethiopian Bible just to read it, to see what's left out over the years. Well, that's easy. You can find a list of those things and just go get those books, like the Book of Enoch, the Book of the Maccabees, that sort of thing. I think there's only like 8 books that are in the Ethiopian Bible that aren't in the King James Version. Maybe more. I think there's 88 books total, if I remember correctly, in the Ethiopian Bible. I have to go look. I think there's 88 books. There's 66 in the King James. So I might have my numbers wrong, but either way, it would be easier to get an Ethiopian Bible than to track down all those books. That's true. Scratch what I just said. Cowboy says, me too, Maureen. Amanda says, I like diamonds. Most girls do. Even some guys like diamonds. Which is why God put them here, just to please you. There's no other reason. Maureen says, I wonder who decided gold was valuable and who decided fool's gold wasn't valuable and not just another form of gold. I don't know who decided that, but gold is valuable because it has intrinsic value. It does not tarnish. It is what it is, and it stays that way, which is the opposite of the law of thermodynamics, where everything tends towards chaos. Gold doesn't, which is why it's valuable. And it used to be so plentiful that it was laying on the ground everywhere. In some places. One of the Egyptian kings bragged about he could just bend over and pick gold up off the ground. That's how plentiful his kingdom was. Cowboy says, I don't like a lot of things. Right on. Maureen says, CO2. You're right. Gold star for Maureen. The very thing that trees need to eat, we produce. And the very thing we need to breathe, trees produce. Cowboy says, here is a nothing gift, Jake. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate the nothing gift. Monkey Juice says, so let me understand. God created oil, gold, diamonds, not a bunch of stars coming together 50 billion years ago? No, he created those too. But not 50 billion years ago. 17 times in the Bible, it says God stretched out the heavens like a scroll. 17 times. So it's very clear that God created them here and stretched out the heavens. Right? That's the meaning behind what the Bible says. The reason that science has the 50 billion year number is because the stars are so far away and it takes that long for light to get here. But that's assuming they've always been there. They could have been yesterday created and stretched out to where they are now. They weren't, but they could have been. The only reason 50 billion years is even fathomable is because of how far away the stars are. But the Bible clearly says that they were put there, which means it didn't take light that long to get here. It was here already. Cowboy says, Rose back at you, cowboy. Amanda says, stars don't come together, but God created them all. He spoke them into existence. Correct. No one has ever seen a star form, Monkey Juice. That is a lie. We've seen a few of them explode, but we've never seen one come into existence. That's a lie. There is no such thing as a star nursery. Maureen says, Monkey Juice, funny thing, God can and does use what he has created to make other things like diamonds, etc. Oh, yeah. Monkey Juice says, do you believe in dinosaurs or is it a conspiracy? I believe in dinosaurs, sure. They're mentioned in the Bible. Why would you ask a question like that? Do I strike you as a dumb person? We have dinosaurs. Now, if you want to ask, do I believe in the dinosaurs that are in the museums? No, because most of them were created by artists. But yes, we have dinosaurs and evidence of them. They called them something different back then, but they are what we call dinosaurs. Back then, they had names like Behemoth and Leviathan, Dragon, that sort of thing. Wyvern, Tiamat, that sort of thing. Maureen says, ever give thought to the possibility that God created the world to look like it's so many years old? Yeah, I've thought about it. I don't see why God would need to employ that sort of deception, though. I think we just inferred that information because things are where they are. And God created the world a specific way, and then he stretched out the heavens, and then we start thinking about it and trying to figure it out, and we come up with all these big random numbers. That's what I think happened. I don't think God has offered any postulation towards the idea that we should decide how old the earth is. I don't think he ever thought about it. I don't think it matters what we think. Amanda says, 2010 science proved the chicken came first. Nice. Now, researchers noted that eggshell formation relies on a protein called oveclidin 17 or OC17, found only in chicken ovaries. They argued a chicken was needed to produce the first proper chicken eggshell. And that science was correct. And how many times do you think schools or science teams have been told about that particular study or made a big deal about it at all? Because it flies in the face. The inference of what you can infer from that information flies in the face of evolution in its entirety. Because if that's true, everything else is true that concerns that way of thinking. Like you need a seed to make a tree, but you need a tree to make a seed. You need a person to make a person. So forth and so on. Maureen says, and there is archaeological evidence of records of the story of the flood. Oh, yeah, there's one on every continent. I think there's something like 212 flood myths. I'm using the word myth loosely because that's what they call it, but it's not a myth, it's history. And the reason that there are so many of those and that they persist is because they're all remembering an event from their perspective that happened. What it is, what's up, brother? Nice to see you. Mom and Dad were always on the couch. Rocky and rolling numbers got my Kiss record out. Right on, what it is. Maureen says, BCE is just before Common Era, LOL. I know what it means, but it's a lie. And it was invented to supersede the original way of looking at time so that they could shift the dates. Trust me on this, I'm correct. And the reason they use the phrase Common Era is because they don't want to use the phrase before Christ, because that's what BC means. And AD means Anno Domini, or after death. Well, whose death? Christ's death. So we measure time by Christian beliefs. And everything else we do in the West is based on Christian beliefs too. They just don't want to admit it. 81 books in the Ethiopian Bible. Thank you. 81, not 88. So there's 66 in the King James. There's 81 in the Ethiopian. Thank you. 88 books are in the English version of the Ethiopian Bible. Okay. So that's where my discrepancy came from. That's what I was remembering. Amanda says the abbreviation BCE and CE gained traction in the 19th century, especially among Jewish academics who wanted to use the widely adopted Western calendar, still anchored on the traditional date of Jesus' birth, while avoiding terms like Christ or BC or Lord or Anno Domini. See? My point exactly. Imagine science wanting to avoid something that actually occurred to bolster their theories. But that's the opposite of science, isn't it? Isn't it, Monkey Juice? Amanda said there are dinosaurs all over Florida. Look at the tortoises and the gators. They're a form of dinosaur. I would buy that. Debbie says, in Sunday school, I asked if BC is before Christ and AD is after death. What do we call the years that Christ lived? That penguin, the nun, gave me a stink eye and never answered. That would be 33 years of the real history. Monkey Juice says chicken definitely came first. It had to, right. Glad you believe in science, Amanda, LOL. Now, you can't turn that around because you're arguing against that with every breath you take and then demanding that it must be that way. Well, why must it be that way, Monkey Juice? Why does the chicken have to come first? Do you know? While you're being all sarcastic and smart-mouthed, do you know why you believe that? Amanda says what it is, hamburger brand. Monkey says person intermingled with what now? Right. Amanda says, I believe in biblical science. Amen. I believe in science too, but not capital S science, because that is a religion and it's based on nonsense. Anything that you can test and repeat and prove and falsify and then have peer reviewed, I'm all down for that. Anything that I must believe because you said so and I can't question it or criticize it, I don't believe in that. because questioning and criticizing is the whole point of science. And I am somewhat of a scientist. I do have some education in the sciences, enough to know my way around a molecule or whatever. And I can tell you that what they're practicing today in most academic areas and on TV, that is not science. That is a religion. Amanda says, I don't believe in Neil deGrasse Tyson or them other scientists. I believe in the science. I believe in science, and there is a big difference. Amen to that. She believes in Jakeian science. Maureen says, my back is having a tantrum, so I need to go lay down. Have a safe weekend, and I'll try to tune in tomorrow. Well, happy Mother's Day tomorrow, Maureen. And all you ladies, happy Mother's Day tomorrow. And I'm not far behind you. I'm going to go to bed, too. We're all sick in this house, so it's time to lay down. Amanda says, good night, Maureen. And Monkey Juice says, did you know KFC cooks Tyson chicken? Probably. I mean, there's only a few places you can get chicken in that quantity. Cowboy says, good night, Maureen. So do I when the price is right. I'm not sure why that's a big revelation. Where did you think they got the chicken from? The KFC plant? Cowboy says, oh, I hope you all feel better. Thank you. Thank you. It's just a thing. We got to get through it. That's all. It's a low-down weekend. No goodies in the house. That sort of thing. Monkey Juice says, maybe Purdue. Maybe. Purdue's chicken ain't as good as Tyson chicken, though. I worked at the Purdue plant, and I saw him kicking around a chicken, and then at the end of the day, I saw him pick it up, put it back in the vat. That ended my chicken desire for Purdue. Don't like that at all. Maureen says, thanks, Cowboys. Yes, thank you. And Amanda says KFC is test tube chicken, probably. It probably all is nowadays. About the only way you can guarantee you're getting good food is go out and wring the chicken's neck yourself and pluck him and cook him. All right, boys and girls, we've made it to the bottom of the chat, and it's 10:41, so I'm going to go to bed now. I have enjoyed this conversation immensely. I hope you have too. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your input, your questions, and your comments. Please do like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chat if you can. And if you could, feed Jake. That'd be nice. I appreciate it. If not, don't worry about it. Happy Mother's Day to all you ladies out there. I hope that tomorrow is a lovely day and that all your wishes are fulfilled and all your dreams come true and all the men in your life treat you like an absolute goddess, metaphorically speaking, but you deserve it. Have a great night. God bless you all. Amanda says, good night all. See you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right on Untethered Live for Bible study. Much love, y'all, and I'll see you then. God bless and thanks for watching.